Guys, welcome to a very, very, very special edition of the Fallible Man podcast. Today's episode is nothing, absolutely nothing like our normal show. I don't want to put too many spoilers, guys, but literally while I was editing this show, more people that I'd asked to participate jumped in the last second. So as we're going through the show, I have 6 guests. Originally, I thought I had 5 when I recorded my portion of the show. So I listed off 5 names during the show to tell you what order people would be talking in. Is now 6. So the order is wrong when I say it in the show, and the actual order is Oliver, Mike, David, Paul, David, and Vince. The second David got me his video a little bit late, so I didn't have that when I was recording my portion of the show. So that's change number 1. Change number 2. These guys are not all professional podcasters or something like that, like I am. And so we have a few rough spots on the audio on a couple parts in the show. I promise, stick through it. What they have to say is 100% incredibly worth it. And most of the video doesn't sound like that, but there are a few rough spots on the audio, but I wasn't going to forego the very valuable piece of information that came with those rough spots. So guys, stick it out. Most of the audio on the show is 100%. There's just a couple rough spots. I promise this is a very unique episode. And if you've been listening to The Fallible Man for a long time, you don't want to miss this out, guys, because today we're sharing the men's opinions who I go to when I need some advice. So check it out. Now let's get on to the normal part of the show. Sorry for the late edition. Welcome to a very special episode of the Fallible Man podcast. If you never listened to the show before, please check out a few more episodes before you make a decision, because this episode will be nothing like the 299 episodes we've already done. What makes this one special? You might have guessed. This is the 300th episode, thus the 299 reference. Why is that special? Because as a podcaster in my industry, you have a 4.1% chance of getting to 300 episodes. That's the statistics. Over 500 podcasters quit every single day. So getting here is quite a landmark, and we are super excited to be able to share episode 300 with you, our listening audience. So we're celebrating with something truly unique today. We set out 300 episodes ago to be a podcast that offers real, honest, humble insights, ideas, concepts, and solutions for men who want to live their best lives. No banging on our chest or false bravado. I'm on a journey myself to be the best version of me. And I wanted to invite men to go with me on that journey because we're all somewhere on that journey. Now, I don't have all the answers, which is why I bring in experts and men who are thriving to share with you and me. Thus, that's why it's called the Fallible Man podcast, because I wanted you to know up front, we're all on this journey together. Today's episode is special because I asked some men that I look up to answer some questions to help us out today for this very special episode. Some of them you met on the show, some of them you've not, at least yet, and you might in the future. But I wanted you to hear from men that I go to when I'm looking for good counsel. So today on the show, you're going to hear from Oliver, Mike, David, Paul, and Vince. And I asked them 4 questions for your benefit and for mine. So let's get into it. Here's the $1 million question. How do men like us reach our full potential, growing to the men we dream of becoming while taking care of our responsibilities, working, living, being good husbands, fathers, and still take care of ourselves? Well, that's the big question. And in this podcast, we'll help you with those answers and more. My name is Brent, and welcome to the Fallible Man podcast. Now, guys, again, welcome to a very special episode of the Fallible Man podcast, your home for all things man, husband, and father. Big shout out to Fallible Nation. That's our longtime listeners. And just by showing up again and again, you become part of that community. And a warm welcome to our first time listeners. Thanks for giving us the opportunity. We know there's a lot competing for your attention, so it really does mean something to us. Like I said at the beginning, this is going to be unlike any other episode I've done. So please check out some of the other episodes before you make a total decision on whether you want to keep listening or not, because this will be quite a bit different. My name is Brent, if we haven't met before, and I live in the world of serving men. I spend a lot of time here. It's kind of what I do. And I ask a lot of questions and search for a lot of answers. So that takes me on a journey through all kinds of platforms, trying to get inside the minds of men. The world of men is not simple. You're not simple. For example, if you read the show notes, or you can pause this and read the show notes, what you'll find in the show notes today is a list of 25 issues that men deal with, sometimes daily, that no one, now read no one as society at large, that no one really cares about. Things that only get solved if enough people were to pay attention to them, and that's not likely to happen. Because that's the only time things get solved, is when a large enough group gets enough attention to it, and then people are forced to listen to it. And while there are people who care about these 25 things listed in the show notes, the vast majority don't, and if they do, they care about one or the other that's touched their life specifically. But it's 25 issues that I have found going through men's forums and platforms and groups that echo over and over and over again, is things that weigh heavily on men that they don't really get much help with and they don't get much support in. And so I was really struggling with what I wanted to bring you on this episode, because I wanted to do something different from the normal show to celebrate this milepost. While I was thinking about it, I was on Reddit reading a men's forum, and I came across a post that someone made, and I wanted to share it with you. I won't go. The username is Alexander, and I'll drop it there. But this is what he wrote. The problem with masculinity in society today is it was demonized, abolished, and abandoned, and the tiny shreds that remain, so tiny that they cannot be properly classified as masculinity, are constantly under attack. He goes on to say, I was not alive to see it, but deep down I know that at some point there existed a sort of generational chain that tied each generation to those that came before it. Men would bestow as much of their life experience to their sons and be good examples of manhood to their daughters. The sons would learn that being a man wasn't always about throwing a punch, but rather about responsibility, integrity, courage, the pride of a good day's work, etc. It was easier to have pride in who you were, the family you lived in, and the nation you lived in, because your father and other men in your family and community acted as physical links to the past. You learned their lessons along with your own, passing them on to your children, and so on and so forth. And then somewhere along the line, a group of people decided that men and their values were no longer required. Fathers were stripped of their families in no-fault divorces, and men in general were stripped of all honor and decency. With them went society. Now those of us who remain, the fatherless children in the millennial generation, are ridiculed and shamed both for having toxic masculinity and yet for not being masculine enough. We have no work ethic, you see. All we care about is our smartphones, our tablets, our video games, our memes, etc. We're all losers who still live with our parents into their 20s and 30s. We're a bitter disappointment to the previous generations, even though they are the ones that helped take our fathers away and left us with nothing, with our only role models being fictional characters on screen like Indiana Jones, Han Solo, John McClane, Luke Skywalker, and etc. Those men were our fathers. There was no one else. But we do try and help you, the elders say. You just don't listen. Well, quite frankly, you tend to start turning people out when everyone has a different idea of who you're supposed to be as a man, air quotes, as if they have the slightest idea of what that means. In the end, it feels like they're trying to help us, less like they're trying to help us, and more like they're trying to indoctrinate us or recruit us into whatever cause or agenda they've got going on. And if I have to hear one more person tell me to be a man, or what I would apparently do if I was a real man, I'm pretty sure someone's going to get flattened. Masculinity in the true sense of the word died a long time ago, and now we have to take on the roles of our fathers we never knew and teach ourselves how to be men. As you might imagine, this endeavor can yield mixed results. The problem with old masculinity is it was destroyed. The problem with new masculinity is that we're largely attempting to rebuild it from nothing, and you hate us for it every step of the way. Now, I know that was a long post, guys, but I read this and it impacted me, because these are the men that usually don't speak out, and he wrote it so well. You see, I found multiple forums where this is the overall tone and feeling is not iterated so well sometimes. But over and over again, I see these same tones, feelings, emotions coming out on these various men's groups and forums that I visit. There's a lot of weight and honesty in the post that was echoed across so many threads, forums, sites. So I asked my people, the people I turn to when I'm struggling, to help with some of the answers. So the first question I asked them to answer, because I saw this as his own thread in multiple places, is what is the biggest problem in the world of men today? Let's start with our
This
group.
is the biggest problem, but a problem that I often see or encounter when speaking with guys is that there are several conflicting ideologies now about what it really means to be a man and how a man should move and how a man should operate and how a man should act and what is acceptable and what's not acceptable and what's toxic and what's not toxic. Many conflicting ideologies to the point where I've had guys tell me, man, I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to do or how I'm supposed to be because it feels like if I'm this, then I'm wrong. But if I'm that, I'm also wrong. And so that's one of the major problems that I see right now.
Hello. Um, I've been asked a few questions that I'm going to answer real quick for you guys. One of the first question is, what is the biggest problem in the world for men right now? I think the biggest problem in the world for men right now is being able to be a man. Our world is trying to remove the traditional role of man that he has held in society. And I think you can clearly see the effects that it's having on society. Second,
Hey, Brent asked me to talk to you guys about some issues facing man nowadays. Kind of the biggest issue I feel that we're facing is we're being demasculized. I'm not sure that's an actual word or not, but we're being told to be less manly, less men. And that's not what we're called to be. We're called to be, leaders and movers and shakers, and we're called to be, men.
What is the biggest problem in the world for men right now? I would say pornography. I say that without hesitation because I know. And it has its grips in such a large percentage of men, high percentage, very high. And it's so dangerous that it's actually deadly in the long run. It's a destroyer. It destroys marriages, relationships, health. Uh, Erectile dysfunction is probably the first visible evidence if you have not been caught or crashed in a relationship or had something like that go on. But I would say that's the first health part that shows up. Anyways,
First question is, what's the biggest problem that men are facing today in the world? It's being a man.
So I think the biggest problem for me in my experience in the world of men, I mean, I own a jujitsu school. I talk to a lot of guys. I talk to a lot of men out there, and we get to kind of jam about like what's going on. What do you like? What don't you like? What's frustrating? And we keep it pretty real. So I feel like I have a good idea of like some of the things that frustrate frustrate us culturally. I think the biggest thing is the need or the expectation to be like macho or an alpha. Um, you know, I don't know where that comes from, but it's definitely a very like boyish understanding of masculinity and masculine energy and sacred masculinity. Um, it's very boyish to me, this idea of like power over, rather than power with and power to. Some of the most incredible men I know have just made everyone around them feel stronger and more capable and more empowered and more able to speak up. And they exude this vibe of like not only am I going to show up as my full self, but I'm going to give you all permission for what it's worth to show up as your full self as well, and to take up space and to clear space for that and to hold space for that. So yeah, I think that idea that is really destructive, you know, that there's this sort of like Genghis Khan, you know, god of the Harley, I don't know, like WWE kind of like mentality with like what's a real man, and it just never ceases to amaze me, you know, how exhausting that is. So this idea that like if you're not that, then you're something weak or, you know, pitiful, vulnerable, you know, small or inadequate. I think that's the biggest thing, is just that we need to let go of that that idea, and that society needs to let go of that idea.
Now that you heard from some of my peers that I talk to, some of the men I look up to, my answer to what is the biggest problem in the world of men today is that men are adrift. Men are out of alignment with their purpose. A lot of them have no idea what their purpose is. A lot of them don't feel like they have a purpose, and they're just aimless and adrift. Men have a dire need to have a mission and a purpose in their life. And without it, they're just adrift at sea, getting tossed around. It is one of the biggest problems facing men today, because once you have that purpose and align with it, then it answers a lot of the other questions that I've heard echoed across these threads. A lot of those sentiments, because once you have that purpose, it starts to answer the questions of what it takes to align with that purpose, which answers a lot of those questions you're out there wondering about what you need to do with your life. Now, remember, we're going to go into the next question, and you're listening to Oliver, then Mike, then David, then Paul, then Vince. If you're watching the video, I'll put name tags up for them. But for you guys on my audio, who are my biggest listenership, I love you guys. I wanted to know who you're listening to, so you know this is the order. It's Oliver, Mike, David, Paul, and Vince who are answering these questions. So let's go to question number 2. I asked them, what's your best suggestion for the problem you highlighted in the first question of what's the biggest problem in the world today? Now, you've heard what they all think the biggest problem in the world of men today is. So this is their solutions, our offerings for what you might do about it. Let's get into that.
I'd say the best suggestion, or a really good suggestion, one that I often share, is that don't try to fit into these ideologies. Determine, identify for yourself what kind of man you want to be. You want to be a man of integrity. You want to be a man that's trustworthy. You want to be a man of faith. Identify what it is that you want to be as a man. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want your legacy to be as a man? What do you want to be able to gift in the way of knowledge to those that come behind you, and start working on being that? Don't try to fit into an ideology. Don't try to become something that you heard about. Don't try to fit into a mold. Identify who you want to be as a man and begin to build in those areas.
Second question is, what's the best suggestion I have for fixing that problem? I say that we need to encourage parents of men, boys, to raise them in the role that they were created. That it's not wrong to raise a young son to be and fulfill the roles that God created him.
So the biggest thing I think we can do is look for those opportunities to be manly. And sometimes that means getting your hands dirty. That means putting in the hard work. That means doing the things that are uncomfortable that you don't want to do. Because let's face it, we seek comfort a lot of the time. So look for those opportunities to do the hard thing. You know, take the stairs instead of the elevator. Look for those opportunities at work to help you grow and get out of your comfort zone. And look for opportunities in your personal life to meet somebody new, talk to somebody different, talk to somebody who's outside of your realm of influence.
What is the best suggestion for the problem? Well, let's get help, get qualified help, get somebody that's been down this road. I'm a firm believer in Jesus Christ, so I seek out wise counsel through people that I can trust, that know. There's a lot of material out there, but there's some really good material, and there's some really good men that can walk with you, and that is key.
Second question is, what can we do? Be the man that God intended you to be unashamedly.
Best suggestion is that, you know, I'm a big person. I'm a large human. I can't help but take up that much space. But I think that there's an element of, you know, being willing to put down the armor, or like put down the bravado, the ego, the shell, the mask. In my experience, your willingness to be vulnerable gives permission to those around you to be vulnerable as well. Your willingness to be goofy, or to be wrong, or to be funny, or to be lighthearted or forgiving, like, it gives permission to those around you to do the same. So my biggest suggestion would be, even if you're alone, you know, just thinking about what it would be like if you did or did not show up as or do XYZ. I think that's huge. So being willing to put it down, being willing to try out, you know, life or living without this this mask is massive. And, you know, I think that we do ourselves an incredible service by exploring, you know, what we would be willing to let go of, you know, or who we would be, or what it would mean if we did or didn't show up as something that's inside of our pattern or structure.
Now that you've heard from the guys, my suggestion, because like I said, I think the biggest problem is men adrift without being in alignment with their purpose, is that we need to reorient ourselves and get back on mission. And that first mission that you have is finding your purpose and learning how to align with that. Now that can take years, guys, but you have to be seeking that mission. You have to get mission focused with a drive and a passion to find that purpose and try and get in line with it, because it's a two-step process. Once you find it, you still have to learn to live in alignment with it. But doing so would solve a lot of our problems today. Now, the third question I asked these guys is, what is your best power tip for men to grow forward in their lives? Because most of you guys who are here for this show, part of the reason you're here is you want these ideas, these tips, these concepts, these thoughts that you can apply to your life, because you're trying to move forward. That's why you're here. Otherwise, you wouldn't bother listening to this show. You want to grow forward. So here are power tips from Oliver, Mike, David, Paul, and Vince on how to grow forward in your lives.
My best power tip would be to shadow your future. What do I mean by that? Get around individuals who are going in the direction that you want to go in, that have accomplished the things you want to accomplish, and make those individuals a part of your circle. People who are knowledgeable in areas that you want to be knowledgeable in, people who have gained or garnered success in areas that you want to garner success in. Make those people influential people in your lives.
What is the best power tip for men to grow in their lives? I'd say that you need to, as a young boy, a young man, or even an older man, is to find a good mentor or role model that you can work on, emulate, and make it a priority in your life. Find that person that you feel like is living the way that you think a man should live, and seek them out, communicate with them, and let them help you to continue the man that God created you.
One of the power tips that I was always given as a kid, and that I've taken into my career, has been, if you're not growing, you're dying. Look for opportunities to grow. Don't get stagnant, because what do stagnant things do? They wither and die. You don't want to become stagnant in your life, and do whatever you can to make yourself the best version of yourself now.
What is the best power tip for men to grow forward with their lives is to have a brother that you can walk this road with, a road of recovery from pornography, somebody you trust, confide. It's your accountability person. We are not meant to do things alone. And as a believer in Jesus Christ, I can't fathom any of this even being remotely possible without Christ. I've tried to do this on my own countless thousands of times. It's not. This is a tool created to destroy, and the tool is pornography.
As for a power tip, set hard boundaries, set roles, and stick to your guns. You know, all this crap about all these different genders and men being weak and toxic masculinity. Listen, I love my kidney, I love my liver. They both have roles, but they're very different organs. If God made you a man, be grateful. If God made you a woman, be grateful. But when it comes to living your life every day, if you're a man, be a man. The Bible is our handbook for life. It says everything we need to do, gives us all the tips we need. But when you're going through your day-to-day life, do what's right, stick to your guns, and don't be ashamed about it. If other people are weak, if other people are twisted, if other people are warped, that's their problem, not yours. I'm not saying to be offensive. I'm not saying to be rude. But listen, if somebody wears a dress and they're a guy, I'm sorry. That's messed up. You can love that person. They're mentally ill. They need help. If someone actually cared about them, they'd say the same thing. Within the home, God put basic needs in a man, basic needs in a woman. When you start mixing those roles and messing them up, things fall apart and nobody's happy. So be who God made you to be and stick to it. And if somebody wants to call you a name, that's their opinion. But if you want joy and peace and happiness and confidence, be the man.
Power tip to grow forward is, and this is something I do with my clients, is just offer up the vantage point of two things. One, where did you get that? Because like everything we have or hold as an idea, a cultural norm, or even as our own coping mechanism for that, we got it from somewhere. Maybe it was a family member, or a teacher, or a role model, or a coach, or something that was said, or something we internalized. Think about why we believe certain things about what it means to be a man or masculinity, and then think about when you first started deploying strategies and tactics and techniques to either meet or conceal parts of yourself in order to conform to that. It's an interesting process, kind of deconstructing not just where we got the idea, but when and where we first started employing strategies to conform to or deal with that idea or expectation.
Now, gents, you've heard from the 5 guys I brought in. My power tip for growing forward in your life is from my life. It's what I had to do. So what I learned firsthand was I had to start dumping the distractions to find my purpose, right? Men need purpose and direction, our purpose and mission, as I've stated. For me, the biggest roadblock was I had to start getting rid of the power distractions in my life. Can I call them power distractions? I know I'm saying power trip, I'm saying power a lot, but can I call them power distractions? Because really they are. They're the things we find to fill our lives with that don't add anything to our lives, but they fill the empty space. For me, one of those things was how much time I spent in front of a television screen, serious couch potato going on. I go to the gym and hit the gym for 2 hours, 5 days a week, and then come home and sit on my butt in front of the television for the rest of the night. Not a good solution. Or I tend to get too into things. So I've done an entire show on video game addiction. It is a legit thing. I was one of those people. I lost 3 years of my life to one game alone, like actually calculated time played. I lost 3 years of my life playing a game that did not give me anything other than some fun. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying a game, but if it controls you more than you control it, then it's a problem, right? Like any other addiction. I lost 3 years of my life to it. It cost me money to play, and I never did anything to make my life better. It was a distraction. And while I was on that path, guys, I wasn't on my mission. I was distracted. I wasn't finding my purpose. I certainly wasn't living in alignment with it. So that is my power tip for how you grow forward, is to dump the unnecessary distractions in your life. It's fine to have a little fun, but you're not meant to just be like, yay, woo, all the time when you're not at work. Now, I know that's a lot to ask for some people because work isn't always fun, but if you want to get to your purpose, you can't be distracted by all the little distractions, and there are a lot of them these days. The fourth question I asked them, because men aren't told things that they should hear frequently, because a lot of people just don't care. We're expected to stand on our own. So I asked them, what do you want every man to hear? And this is what Oliver, Mike, David, Paul, and Vince had to say about it.
What do I want every man to hear? I want every man to hear this. You're not alone. You're not the only one that's going through what you're going through. You're not the only one who's trying to build. You're not the only one who is facing challenges. You're not the only one who is in the space, whatever space you find yourself in. You're not the only one. There are other individuals, other men who are striving for the same thing that you're striving for. Now it's about finding them and understanding that in community, there is strength. And in community, there is encouragement. And in community, there is inspiration. So find yourself that community.
And then what I want every man to hear is that there's nothing more fulfilling in this life than living life as a man of God. Thank you so much for your time.
4, what do I want every man to hear? I want every man to hear that there's hope. There's hope in Jesus Christ. There's hope. There's hope for the future. There's hope that you will not be stuck in addiction of pornography, that you can look forward to being free from this. So the big takeaway is you can't do this alone. Pornography is a killer. Jesus Christ is the answer. And there is hope. There is so much hope. There's no shortage of hope. Anyway.
The last question was, what do you want every man to hear? That's the message, man. God and your role, what he designed you for, is the most important thing. Don't compromise. If you look at every illustration in the Bible, if you look at every illustration in your life, anytime compromise happens, there's a winner and a loser in some area. Negotiation is good, compromise is bad. And what I mean by that is, it doesn't matter if it's in your home or at work or in politics. If you come to an agreement with someone, you negotiate, that's great. If you don't, walk away from the table, because if not, there's always a loser, and they're going to come back for vengeance later. And we're just kicking the can down the road with problems. So when you're out there and you're saying, these are my roles, this is who I am, I'm not going to be ashamed. If you don't like it, sorry, that's your issue. But when it comes to work and it comes to politics and it comes to just everyday life, never compromise. Negotiate everything or walk away from the deal. If it's a personal situation, you can't walk away. Our founding fathers, they didn't go for 2 hours into a meeting. They went for days and days and days, and they kept talking until they came to an agreement, and we got the US Constitution. In America, we don't need more laws. We just need to follow the laws we have, and our system will get cleaned up. So again, when we water down what a man is, when we water down our standards, when we water down our boundaries, you get the United States today. So don't worry about toxic masculinity. Be more worried about living a toxic, lukewarm life. So be the man God intends you to be. Hope this helped. Catch you.
And then what every man wants to hear, man, you're enough. You're enough. You're enough. As you are, you're enough. You show up, you're helping, you're doing your best. Thank you. You're enough. I'm so grateful for you. It means the world to me that you give as much as you do and you try as hard as you do. And I see you and you're enough and you're amazing. You're enough. I think that's what men need to hear. It's a shame that we don't. I think we're afraid to ask because it would make us like needy. But man, I know guys that are starving to hear that. Thank you.
So you've heard what some of the men that I go to have to say about it. And I wanted you to hear this from me. What I want every man to hear. It's not too late. You're not too old. Insert excuse. You're not too far gone. You're not too old. You're not too out of shape. You're not too busy. You're not too tired. You're not too deep into whatever you're stuck in. It is never too late to get your life back on point with where you want to be and who you want to be. So no matter what you think, because I hear this excuse all the time, as a former personal trainer, I heard this excuse in the gym all the time. I'm too old. I don't have enough time. I'm too fat. I'm too far gone. I just don't have the time, right? We always find excuses because excuses bring us comfort. Excuses are distractions. They give us license to get in front of that television or scroll endlessly on social media. But guys, it's not too late and you're not too far down the road or whatever else you want to say to live the life and be the man that you want to become. Simple as that. Now, gentlemen, you've heard some great insights from men I care about and that are involved in my life. Men I turn to for guidance on various issues. I've always been a proponent of surrounding yourself with good men who lift you up. Today, I wanted to share some of those men in my life who make me better, because I knew if they can help make me better, then they can help make you better too. There's a lot of wisdom between these guys in the various areas of their lives. Now, I was told before I had done 25 episodes that my show wouldn't last. It wasn't niche enough. We had no future. It was never going anywhere. But the truth is, that's because as men, we're often sold short. You're not two-dimensional. You don't just work and go home. Your life is far more complex than that. Your life is a journey made up of so many roles and elements, and you'll be challenged in all of them. You'll fight demons. You'll be crushed by life at times and have to decide if you have what it takes to get back up, and it will be difficult. Surround yourselves with men who are a step or two ahead of you or who are already where you want to be. Draw strength from them when you can, because at times you're going to have to stand alone. But the good news is you were made for such a time as this. You're gifted with a depth of strength that you may not even be aware you have yet. I see it in you. That's why I do the show. That's why we try and put out content to help you, because I see the value you bring to this world as you grow into the man that you were born to be, even if you don't see it yet. So guys, from the Fallible Man and our crew here, thank you for being a part of our story, our lives, and our mission. After 300 episodes, my closing is just as valid as the first time I said it to you. So I'm so glad that actually aged well instead of how some things go. But guys, as we wrap up this 300th episode, I hope you're encouraged. We're here to walk with you. And as always, be better tomorrow because of what you do today.
This has been the Fallible Man Podcast, your home for everything man, husband, and father. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a show. Head over to www.thefallibleman.com for more content and get your own Fallible Man gear.